Two objects cannot occupy the same point in space at the same moment in time. The corner races at you. You have perhaps a crisis of identity. Am I a sportsman? Or a competitor? If you get into one of my cars, you get in the win. Slow.
Enzo.
You're going broke.
How?
You spend more than you make.
So what do I do?
Win the Mille Miglia, Enzo.
Or you are out of business.
This is a gun pointed at our head. You should assign me control of your stock. I have to have all the cards in my hand.
Well, half the cards are in my hand.
All of us are racers. It's our deadly passion. Our terrible joy.
I wonder if we need me back.
How can I stay away?
If Italy is looking for a scapegoat, then here I am.
You were supposed to save him! You promised me he wouldn't die!
The father deluded himself!
Two objects cannot occupy the same point in space at the same moment in time.
Enzo. Go beat the hell out of them.
For as long as I can remember, I've had a fascination with racing. And I'm going to share a story that barely seems believable.
Jensen Button crosses the line, takes the checkered flag.
How do you feel? It's really amazing.
Only one team in their debut race in the history of the sport have been able to get pole position and then go on to win.
This is the story of Brawn GP. Why do people say that you were the 1 pound Formula One team?
I gave £1 to the Honda executive. Allow us to buy the team to keep the team alive.
This is the only option we've got on the table. It's this, or the team gets shut down.
Can you do this?
Yes. Best way to become unpopular very quickly is to start winning.
We're a team that's come from nowhere. No one expected us to be here.
They went too far. There was something against the rules. This was the start of the war.
This team that everybody just wanted to survive is killing us.
I'm going to win the championship.
The knives were out and they were after us.
You either push to the limit or you're nothing. We push to the limit.
People believe in him because he looks innocent.
Yet really behind the scenes, a smiling assassin.
I think you're all smiling assassins.
It was a really scary time.
This is about survival.
Formula One, once it gets into your blood, it'll never let go.
Do you feel like Ross Brawn was the luckiest guy in the world? Or do you think he was really clever?
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
Hey guys, this is Matt Hagan, 3-time funny car world champion, and you're watching Drafting the Circus.
Other drivers coming over to congratulate as well.
Bubba Wallace coming in to congratulate him as he pulls up in front of the championship stage. This is the best part of the season right here, when Ryan Blaney will be able to get out and celebrate with his team. We saw how emotional and heard the emotions of Blaney, talking about how important it was that his family was here, family and friends. Standing by there with Marty as well, right there with the trophy and the presentation about to get underway. Marty.
Girlfriend Gianna here as well, and it's time to present some hardware to the 2023 NASCAR Cup Series champion. To do that, the NASCAR president, Steve Phelps.
Thank you, Marty. How about that show? Ryan, what an incredible day. Congratulations to you, Jonathan, and the entire 12 team. Just incredible. Hello, John. You know, quick shout out to your competitors in the championship 4. Felt bad for Christopher, but the battle that you put on, you know, with William and Kyle was incredible. But in the end, there could only be one, and that was you. So on behalf of NASCAR and our entire industry and the best fans in the world, I want to present to you the Bill France Cup and crown you our 2023 NASCAR Cup Series champion.
He gets to lift the trophy finally, and it's heavier than it looks, isn't it, Ryan? How much of the story of this 12 team this year is about never giving up and overcoming adversity?
Yeah, I mean, I think we did an amazing job of that, you know, and, you know, I mean, it's somewhat of an up and down year, but you're going to have those moments, and through the summer, we just worked really hard to try to get back where we needed to be, and kind of set a deadline for the playoffs, and we met that deadline. So just super proud of the effort by everybody at, you know, Team Penske, who put tons and tons of hours into hard work, and, you know, no one really got down. They just put their heads down, and they decided to, you know, really put in a lot of work, and it showed up, especially in these playoffs, especially the last 5 weeks, and so cool to have all their hard work pay off, so they should be proud.
Let's talk about your dad, Dave. He has been your biggest cheerleader of late. How about getting to this point? How much has family meant to you to get here?
It's meant everything, you know. I mean, obviously I come from a family of racers, my grandfather and dad and uncle, and you know, Dad is obviously who I grew up watching and admiring and wanted to be like. So to be able to do what he did, because as a kid I just wanted to do what Dad did, and so to be able to race and let alone, you know, compete for wins and championships and still have my parents around and people you look up to that are still around, it makes it even more special.
You know, second-year crew chiefs aren't supposed to win a Cup Series championship. How much has Jonathan Hassler changed the trajectory for you?
Oh, he's been amazing. I mean, it's been a fun 2 years. You know, I mean, we had a shot to get here last year. You know, and I made some mistakes that kept us out. So we worked really hard in the winter to try to get back to where we know we can be. And you know, he's such a dedicated hard worker. Every single person on this 12 group is, and you know, from pit crew to mechanics to truck drivers, you know, I mean, everyone has a part in it, and they work their asses off. So it's cool to see all that stuff pay off. And but yeah, fun to work with Jonathan, and hopefully we can get some more.
How about this young man over in the corner, Mr. Roger Penske? What has he meant to your career, Ryan?
Well, it's been amazing. You know, we talked. It's been over 10 years since when I walked through the doors of that place. It's hard to believe. It's gone by so fast. But you know, I was telling everybody all week that, you know, having the opportunity to go back-to-back Cup champions for Mr. Penske, you know, has never been done. He hasn't done that, and it's not very often you get to do something in motorsports that RP hasn't done. And so, because he's done everything, he's accomplished everything. So to be able to be a part of this and bring him another championship and be a driver that's brought him a championship is very special. So it's been a fun decade, and hopefully another fun decade ahead.
Last year it was his teammate Joey Logano who wins the title. This year it's Ryan Blaney who brings Team Penske the Cup Series championship.
Hi, I'm Parker Kligerman. For more access like this from Pit Road, be sure to click and subscribe to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube channel.
Start your
Good evening, race fans. Welcome to the Hoobazoo Radio Network. Welcome to Drafting the Circuits, brought to you by Sinister One Productions. My name is Frank Santoroski. I'll be your host for the next hour as we discuss this past weekend in racing and preview next week. Joining me, Luis Torres and Richard Uden. What's up, fellas?
How's it going?
Yo. It's going, Luis. Wore out. Luis is just returned from Phoenix, where he's going to give us a report from the NASCAR Championship weekend here in a moment. First, we'll acknowledge our sponsors. I don't know if you had a chance to check out the pre-show there, but we've got a trailer on there for a program coming on Hulu, Brawn, the Impossible Formula One story. That's going to be pretty good if you guys remember the 2009 Formula One season. This is a nice chronicle of that. Also, the Ferrari film coming out, Luis Torres Multimedia, and Ryan Blaney for early detection of Alzheimer's. So, speaking of Ryan Blaney, I am wearing my Team Penske hat, which must mean that Ryan Blaney is now a Cup champion. Hairy knuckles and everything, I tell you. But
yeah, he's going to have that Penske shave in a bit relatively soon because that beard is going to go away.
Yeah, now it's talking about his knuckles, though, man. You ever shake hands with Ryan Blaney? I swear the dude is a werewolf. But anyway, he's a werewolf that fought hard on Sunday. I mean, he really gave it his all there. It wasn't handed to him. It wasn't an easy win. He was dicing with all the other championship contenders there, minus Christopher Bell, who had a issue early on with brakes. We'll get into that in a bit. But he also had guys like Ross Chastain and Kevin Harvick and Martin Truex getting up there too, trying to get their piece of the pie. So so Ryan Blaney, Cup champion. Louise, you were feet on the ground in Phoenix, so let me just let you start it off.
Yeah, I barely had any feet on the ground after mid-Friday, but it got better over time. But yes, as you heard, Christopher Bell had issues with in a championship for race. We rarely see it. In fact, prior to there was only 2 to 3 notable incidents involving championship for drivers, with one of them retiring, figuratively speaking and literally, in Carl Edwards. He's remained the only driver to fail to finish the championship for race at a Cup title decider. That changed when Bell had the issues, brought it to pit road. Damage was too much for him to continue. His right front tire was catching a little bit of fire in the brake rotor. That fortunately didn't escalate compared to Sammy Smith in the Xfinity race, where he had a fire on pit road. But for Bell, it's a bummer ordeal because this championship had the writings to be a nail-biter fight to the bitter end, where all 4 of them had a fairly equal chance. There was no true definitive strongman. Yeah, you could say Blaney because he's been strong as of late at Phoenix, Byron being the spring winner and Larson being the only champion in that championship four, that experience would help him. But with Bell out of the picture, it came down to the other three guys who stayed within distance for one another, when Bell and Byron can get away from each other for many laps.
Yeah, I believe they finished second, third, fourth behind Ross Chastain, who we should mention won the race.
Yeah, and as I was going to bring up that there's always this notion that the championship four in the Cup Series will win every single race. They have the extra horsepower and all that. Just this was not the case. You had two guys that were not in the championship four. They were eliminated from the playoffs by this point. And Kevin Harvick was making his final start, and Ross Chastain. Both of them looked really good. But once Chastain took the lead, he was pretty much tough to beat. And for Chastain, that has had a rather disappointing year compared to a year ago where he finished runner-up in the championship. He's going to end up, I think, 8th or 9th for the points. Last time, if I recall, you could check out my Motorsports Tribune piece on that, discussing about Chastain's afternoon. But Blaney, on the other hand, that could have ended disastrous for him and everybody else, because they were battling very aggressive, very hard. That Blaney wasn't having it, that he slammed into the back bumper Chastain not once, but twice, notably. It told him and Blaney told Chastain, a reminder that your car number fits what I think of you, being number one. And Chastain was just too strong. He ended it on a good note, his second win of the year, fourth of his career. And obviously he's overshadowed by the fact this was Kevin Harvick's last race. He finished in the top 10. And of course, Ryan Blaney winning the championship, which was Penske's second in a row, their fourth overall, with the others being 2 from Logano and 1 for Brad Keselowski. So, and not bad for Ford in their final race with this current body of the Mustang. As you see, I changed the backdrop of the photo to reflect the new Cup champion as he coming out of opening practice during gold.
Oh, yes, you did.
Yeah, similar carbon copy to the one I previously had, but I figured to change it because we got a new champion. But yeah, Blaney ended up second, just couldn't have it. Just didn't have. He was no match for Ross. Honestly, it's a good day for him. And
I mean, at that point, the guy ahead of you is, not in the hunt. Why chase him down, right?
Still didn't stop him making contact with him.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah,
they got together a couple of times, which was a bit.
It could have been. Blaney's known to be a little bit of a hothead sometimes, as is Chastain, of course. And there's a lot of people that would like to hit Chastain, just for fun sometimes. But Blaney, he's got the reputation where I want to say during the race over the radio when he was kind of getting into it with Chastain, Byron spotted said, hey, the 12, he's melting down. You go after him now. So, but I guess they were able to kind of talk Blaney down over the radio, get him calm down and say, hey, focus, buddy. Okay. There's a lot on the line.
Yeah, trust me, the Penske organization are no strangers to that. I mean, look at Rusty Wallace, look at Kurt Busch. They've had people like it. It's just more or less Blaney over the radio than what we see all in all. Because, I mean, look at when Blaney lost the Daytona 500 to Austin Cindric. He was very angry at Cindric because it cost him the 500. That he wanted to do, kind of pretty much grab him in the chokehold and strangle him after the race. It's just, heat in the moment ordeal. But other than that, then you have people in the press saying that, implying that Chastain does not care. That Chastain in the presser said he does care, probably more than Ryan does about his competitors, which is, I'm like, take it for a grain of salt to some. But for others, well, that's his words.
Yeah. I mean, for his part, Blaney, he's certainly one of the more likable guys in the paddock there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He just comes off as just a regular dude. You know what I mean? Just having fun, getting by. He's grown up around the sport, so he's very comfortable. His father being Dave Blaney, who raced in Cup for a number of years. So he's very comfortable around the sport, and he's very comfortable in the public eye and with fans. And he just, he's just kind of like, what you see is what you get. He just seems like a good dude you like to go have a beer with, like Dale Jr. Just seems like a good dude you like to go have a beer with. So I'm not mad at all that Blaney won. I kind of like the guy. I have a Blaney diecast over here. So
yeah, and for Blaney this season, has been compared to a year ago, he went winless except for the All-Star race, but he went winless a year ago, and he was able to get wins at the Coke 600, and then at Talladega, and then at Martinsville. So he's ended up winning a few more races, but this time around, it felt like Blaney didn't have to necessarily rely on being the ultimate opportunist, where out of nowhere he takes the win, type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, he started out kind of slow. He was running 10th or 12th through the first stage, but it seemed like whatever adjustments they made after stage 1, turned his car into a rocket ship.
Yeah, because it was Byron running away with it, and then Harvick
in the early stages.
to him.
Yeah,
yeah. It looks like at one point Harvick could be living up to the closer moniker one more time, but he faded away. But he didn't fade away terribly. He just faded away over time to finish 7th.
Yeah, he had a good run. He's Harvick's won a ton of races at Phoenix, hasn't he?
Yeah, had he won, it would have been his 10th Cup win at Phoenix.
Yeah. So now, Richard, you've been quiet over there. So let's.
I wonder why.
Because you were rooting for Christopher Bell, part of your Toyota family. So unfortunately, issue with the brakes there. It looked like that brake rotor just exploded under pressure, and that doesn't seem to be a common problem at Phoenix. It seems like I've seen these types of things at Martinsville or sometimes on the road courses. So any kind of thought behind that? Because we didn't have widespread brake failures from different guys, but certainly Bell's was pretty catastrophic.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't great, was it? No, I must admit I don't know any details on the issue or what we saw or what the team saw from that in terms of was it a usage issue? I'm inclined to imagine that it was a parts failure rather than anything else. For it to go relatively early in the race, about third way through the race, that doesn't sound like the brakes have been overused and it's just failed. If that was the case, you'd see other guys suffering from issues closer to the end of the race. So I'm inclined to believe, and this is by no means, a legitimate statement or a statement with any insider knowledge on it. I imagine it'd be a component failure, which is frustrating. The first one we've had of the year on all of our Toyota cars to have a brake failure in that nature, and it's disappointing because Chris has been qualifying so well lately. Didn't have a great qualifying session. I think he qualified about 12th, 13th, but managed to work his way up through the field during stage 1. I think the end of stage 1 he was 6th, 7th, maybe. He was ahead of Blaney for most of that race there. And I think he was ahead of Blaney at the time when his brake rotor failed. So a lot of ifs and buts and what could have been, but it was a pretty galling weekend, I think, for the Toyota family and as a whole. In the truck race with Corey Heim, we had by far the fastest truck out there. And in the Xfinity race, some great racing at the end there, and John Hunter just couldn't quite get it done, unfortunately, again, despite having a pretty quick car. So, it's the nature of the playoff format that NASCAR has introduced here, and yet it's designed to create entertainment. It's designed to create this sort of spectacle, the Super Bowl, if you like, of NASCAR. But it, from my perspective, and I think from a lot of people that maybe work in the industry now, Penske probably aren't saying the same thing. It does create a little bit of a lottery, and it'd be interesting to look at the point standings without any of the playoff skew in that. And I imagine Blaney was maybe low end of the top 10, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th in point standings if you take the season as a whole. Certainly not. I don't think he would have been the overall points leader. So it, but that's the nature of the sport. That's how they want to run it. You look at the baseball. Recently, the best teams through the regular season didn't get anywhere near the World Series. So it can be frustrating for people that put a lot of time and effort into the sport and then come away with nothing when they've actually achieved the fastest car of the season or the best performances over the course of the season. So, but we move on. We've got our off season. Our testing starts again in less than a month out in Phoenix for a new aero package for 2024, and we go again. We do what we do, and we'll see what that brings us. Hopefully, a better culmination.
Yeah, it will certainly be curious to see what will go down. And yeah, speaking of baseball, if I were the Atlanta Braves, I would be mad that he left for the LA Angels, or as I like to refer to Anaheim. But that's a different story for another time.
Yeah, we'll save that for a baseball podcast. Right. Yep. So.
But yeah, speaking of Corey that you brought up, obviously it's broken out that he's got a 25-point penalty and a hefty fine for his actions over Carson Hocebar that played an integral role of what happened on Friday that reminded me so much of this year's Indy 500, where the emotions ran wild, thinking who's going to win it because it could go either way. I'm like, end this now, get it over with. And lo and behold,
we had 28, 29 laps of
past the advertised distance.
Right. So, and truck champion Ben Rhodes, also for Ford. Ford swept all 3 championships this weekend. So, good year, for the Ford guys.
Ford championship weekend returned.
Ford championship, yeah. Maybe Toyota should sponsor championship weekend. I don't know. So,
I mean, they could. They have the Rattlesnake Mountain with the Toyota inflatables.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question, right? And this is just since you were there. How much time is between the end of the race and the post-race press conference? Because
usually it looked 90 minutes to 2 hours.
Yeah, it's plenty of time for. Because I've done these at Indy, and it's some of them are pretty quick, but like the 500, it takes forever till you get the winner up there. But they're taking pictures and doing this. But it looked like Ben Rhodes went to the bar.
Yeah, because they go to the barn after the celebration, after the photos, after the champagne. They take them to the barn, which is like where the fans get to see the champion, they get their ring, except for some reason I don't think they were given rings this year because I didn't see Blaney wearing his. And considering Newgarden had one that snapped, probably best idea that he didn't have one.
Yeah, but so he was wasted during a press conference. It was really if you just Google Ben Rhodes drunk press conference if you're watching tonight and have a look at that, it was hilarious, right? And he did the same thing last time he won the championship. Yeah. The first guy I remember really wasted in post race stuff was Keselowski. He was the first thing they handed him when he got out of the car was a giant mug of Miller, which he drank that there in victory lane. But by the time he got on after the press conference, by the time he got on Wind Tunnel later that night, y'all remember Wind Tunnel?
Yeah.
By the time he got on Wind Tunnel, he could barely get a sentence out. But hey, you know what? Celebrate, right? Celebrate. That's how some people celebrate, with a couple of cocktails, or in Ben Rhodes' case, it looked like they probably just lined up the shots of tequila and say, yeah.
Yeah, Custer held his own in that one for the most part. Not as memorable as Rhodes, where he talked about dinosaurs and other stuff, like Rich Luscious, who started off the year as Haley Deegan's crew chief. Then they brought him back to Ben Rhodes, and it clicked.
Yeah. All right. So Cole Custer, our Xfinity champion. So we already talked about the truck race a little bit. And Rhodes had a bit of a tough time. He didn't lose the nose of the truck at one point during the race.
I am not 100% sure about that.
Well, this is from him.
He had some damage
his press
on the
conference,
right
and
side.
he was talking about crazy stuff. So yeah, it could have been anything he was talking about. So Xfinity, Cole Custer. Here's a guy who was once a Cup regular, demoted down to Xfinity, win a championship there. He's not the first guy to to go that route. I want to say
John Hunter Nemechek went to that
John-
route. He went to trucks to Xfinity. Now he's going to go back to Cup.
AJ Allmendinger as well was a full-time in Cup and then back down to Xfinity and found more success. So, which, I mean, it's not a bad thing. Sometimes it's what you need in your career, especially if you've been maybe pushed through too quickly, or you're in Cup in a non-competitive situation.
Yeah, 3 out of the 4 were that route. Sam Mayer not yet went to Cup yet. When you think about it.
Yeah, but if you're in Cup in a non-competitive car and you could be in a competitive car in Xfinity, where would you rather be? You know what I mean? So, it's your own personal. You probably make more money in Cup, but
for sure.
Winning races is fun.
Yeah, Custer winning at Phoenix. Good sidetrack. Christian Eckes won the truck race, not a playoff contender on that night. But Custer, first oval wins, he came back in the Xfinity Series. Because his other 2 wins were on the road course at Portland and the street course at Chicago that got rain shortened.
All right, Richard, you get a chance to watch any of the truck or Xfinity action this weekend?
I watched the truck race until Carson Hocevar decided to get into the back of Corey Haim, and then I threw things at the TV and stormed off, similar to the way that Corey Haim did, which was not the greatest move on his part, I don't think. I think I know there's a few people sat him down and reminded him of his responsibilities because, with so many overtime laps, who knows what would have happened. But certainly the damage caused by that incident was, pretty detrimental to his performance in clean air. But, with all those restarts, who knows what could have happened. But, alas, it wasn't to be. And, yeah.
Yeah, Tony Stewart pretty much made a point that the Xfinity race, prime example how to run aggressive but fairly well. And pretty much implied that teams do keep an eye on the truck series more than you think they do. Because they look at it as no matter how good you are, but if you're that too aggressive, they're done with you. They want nothing to do with you. They will not look at you as a future prospect.
You don't want that guy tearing up your Cup equipment. It costs a whole lot more than that truck.
No, and I think Allgaier also said they should go back to a different body where if you damage it enough, you're done. Because the body we have right now, you can run it as long as you want it and still probably get a top 10.
All right. So now, Richard, you were telling us before we got in the air that your folks at Toyota have begun your work with Legacy now that the season is over. Yep. So, how's that going so far? I know you're only a couple of days into it, but what's the vibe at Legacy? Are they kind of really stoked to be part of the Toyota family?
I think so. Yeah, it's part of, I think, a general overhaul of the what used to be the Petty team. They're based out of the old GMS facility in Statesville here in North Carolina, and yeah, it's sort of, there's quite a few, new people coming into the team. Obviously Jimmy and his group are investing quite heavily into the organization. I think they're looking forward to the driver lineup next year with Eric Jones and John Hunter Nemechek there. Two young guys still certainly in the early stages of their career, there's a buzz there. I think when you look at the especially the Chevy camp, to put it mildly, some of these smaller teams can get lost in the mix and don't get maybe the attention that they deserve from the manufacturer. And that's certainly not the case with Toyota. We're, they'll be our third team joining the group behind Joe Gibbs Racing in 2311. And we're making a lot of effort to get up to speed as quickly as possible with them and them with us, and see where we start early on next season. But we're we have a test in December in Phoenix in less than a month, which is our target for them. They'll be running that test for Toyota, and a lot of work involved getting ready for that, but there are a really enthusiastic group of engineers there, and I think it's going to be a great addition to the Toyota family and give us a little bit more strength in depth and give us a few more resources and then the ability to compete in terms of numbers with the Ford and Chevy camp.
Yeah, I mean, Eric Jones had a couple of really good runs this year. So that's encouraging. And obviously John Hunter, we know that kid's pretty darn talented too. So
it's a good little group.
Yeah, even though they're both relatively young, but you still got Jimmy Johnson in there, who's he's got a little bit of experience winning races and championships.
Yeah, the odd one or two.
Yeah,
but he brings that mentality to the group, and he brings that outlook and that experience and that winning mentality. And Matt Kenseth is now involved with that organization as well. So bringing that Toyota family together in there and that background with the Toyota organization. So. To have guys like Matt and Jimmy there, and they've got another, a reasonable number of other experienced people who, behind the scenes in the sport have moved to that organization. Obviously, people put a lot of faith in Jimmy Johnson and his group of investors, and when they want to do something, then people take note of it. So it'll take time for sure. It's not going to be an instant success for them, but. They certainly have the right outlook on it, and it's going to be fun working with them and helping them grow and compete for wins and championships in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see like where they are like years from now, right? Because there's some drivers that go into ownership and then it just for whatever reason doesn't last long or doesn't work out, right? There's other guys that they get in there, say Roger Penske started as a driver, right? But his career was relatively brief before he and Chip Ganassi also started as a driver, and he's been around for a long time as an icon of the sport. Michael Andretti is now 20 years into this thing, right? But you got now we've got Jimmy Johnson out there, Keselowski's out there, Jeff Gordon has an ownership stake in Hendrick. So it'll be interesting to see like where these guys end up in say like another couple decades,
Oh yeah.
Because some of those older group, may not still be around, right? Nobody lives.
No, for sure. I mean, I think
nobody lives forever, right?
No, I think you look at that group that you mentioned there. If you take the quartet of Roger Penske, Jack Roush, Rick Hendrick, and Richard Childress, you've got four guys there who in 5 years, one of them won't be running the team. They'll have retired. 10 years, probably none of them will be running their respective teams. Hopefully not for any disastrous reasons, but it's becoming a young man's game. You look at what Justin Marks has done with Trackhouse, and you see Jimmy Johnson coming through, owning a team, and some of these younger guys. You look at Colleague Racing; they're starting to make some moves there. Again, a young, enthusiastic owner. As you mentioned, Brad's obviously taken an interest in Roush, so. And Joe Gibbs as well. I mean, Joe's not young. So there's 5 team owners there, which probably won't be particularly active in 5 or 10 years' time. And again, to the 2311 with Denny and Michael Jordan. Again, young, new blood into the sport and active people coming into the sport, which is great for the industry. The fact that. A guy like Michael Jordan, who's a very stout, very astute businessman and has some very good business portfolio, great business portfolio, would come into the sport, does speak, highly of the way the sport's moving. And, again, you see like teams like Spire, we've mentioned Spire on here in the past, the amount of money they've been investing recently in the sport. It was good under $60 million in a couple of weeks to purchase a charter and to buy Kyle Busch Motorsports. So, there's money floating around in the sport from young blood, from new blood, and I think it's great. It's a real confidence boost for the sport, for the TV rights, because there's a new TV contract on the horizon. And, I think people are starting to take note of this new wave of NASCAR. It's great to see.
Whatever happened to the Floyd Mayweather team?
They've done a couple of races, Moneyball or whatever they were called.
Yeah,
the money team.
Yeah, they've done a couple of
Daly,
races,
and they've been MIA for after
Yeah.
Coda.
Yeah, I was reading there's another team from Germany supposedly coming in. They tried to get entry into a couple of the races earlier this year and they struggled, but they want to do a handful of races next year. So again, more of these new teams, as long as they are successful and have real long-term financial backing. Some of these smaller teams that we've seen in the last few years that have plagued NASCAR, I think, are starting to fall by the wayside. These, and I don't want to use the word fly by night because that's a little bit disrespectful to some of them, but some of them with owners that are maybe less than scrupulous, should we say? BK Racing, I know those guys have had a few financial problems. Starcom, they were always on a little bit shaky ground. You're starting to see some of these people come into sport with an established baseline to work from, and I think that's really good for the industry in the long term.
Absolutely. So, all right. So, anything else coming out of Phoenix we need to discuss? Because I think we're going to go get out of the desert and go down to the rainforest and go down to Brazil next.
Just a few side notes to mention. You mentioned about the 30 team from Germany. They've showed up to the races. I think they're just taking their time to fully develop. I know Ryan Vargas is going to run races in Europe for the 30 team. And as far as the money team, I've heard nothing since then. But going back to Phoenix, Eric Almirola had a pretty decent top 15 to cap off his career. Riley Hurst in Xfinity ends it on another really good run. Had he not had that collapse during the summer, he would have really been a championship threat if he had that momentum going for him. So I'd be curious to see where he goes from there performance-wise. He's got to build it up and be a top 5 contender next season, in my opinion. For trucks, as I alluded to, Christian Eckes gets the win. Grant Enfinger just couldn't come up with a way to get it done in this final race. That final race for GMS Racing altogether, as of course their truck program is gone. So, and sooner or later, Enfinger will announce where he'll go in 2024, which is expected to be a high caliber team. One can hope for his case.
One can hope. Yep. So, all right. So, Keith, my producer, wants me to mention that the SAG strike is over. And filming going to resume on a lot of these projects at 12:01 a.m. So interesting news there that just broke through. So that means all of your NASCAR drivers that have SAG cards can go back to doing commercials. So
yeah, I can't wait for the next movie. All of them gonna be in 2025.
Yeah. So yeah, it's funny, like NASCAR drivers in commercials. They were everywhere in the 90s, right? And I used to always think people must think that NASCAR drivers wear their fire suit wherever they go, whether they're at the dinner table, at the grocery store, at the gas station. They always wear their driver's suit. So I guess they're always protected in case they burst into flames. So anyway, Grand Prix of Brazil, championship already been decided, but Max go ahead and win another one. He took another record, which would be he's taking a record from Alberto Ascari for the highest win percentage in a season. And there's not going to be many records left that don't have Max's name on them before too long. I mean, he's still quite a ways away from the win total record, but at his current pace and provided the Red Bull's performance still stays at the top of the game, I don't see any reason why he won't be right up there in the mix of Schumacher and Hamilton by the time he calls it a career. So anyway, Max won, right? But interestingly enough, for one of the first times, we saw Lando Norris putting some actual pressure on Max in the early stages of the race, which was very exciting to see. I mean, Lando was nearly able to get around him, but eventually Max pulled away. And, for their part, McLaren had said something about Red Bull's getting much better tire wear, which, that holds water because, you burn up your tires trying to chase Max, and he's not wearing as much as that, then you're just gone. But good day for him. A good day for, Alonso and Perez had a battle royale there going on at the end. But Richard, let you take it away.
Yeah, it was the sixth and final sprint race weekend of the year. Max decided to win both races because why not? But the main race on Sunday, as you mentioned, Max did what Max does, same old, same old. Great performance again by Lando Norris to get up in P2. And Alonso and Perez had a great battle towards the end of the race. The start of the race was marred by a coming together between the two Haas cars and Alex Albon in the Williams, and that resulted in a red flag for a period of time there. So we had a second start, and Max controlled the race pretty comfortably. Lando pressurized him for a couple of laps, but it was never anything sustainable. Teams are starting to get close to Red Bull in qualifying now over a one-lap shootout. But over the course of a race, when it comes to time management, Red Bull are still leaps and bounds ahead of anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Richard, I guess we should also mention that Charles Leclerc didn't even make the grid.
No, very true. He had an electrical failure.
If we had certain rules from back in the day, he would have been in the resumption of the race, but we don't have that rule anymore.
He had an electrical failure, which resulted in a hydraulic failure, which caused him to spin out, which caused a power steering failure. So, very unfortunate for Charles Leclerc. First driver to have did not start, did not finish, and did not start disqualification, and another one in the same season for 30 years or something. I can't remember, some strange statistic that I'm sure he's very proud of.
He figures if Max is breaking records, he'll break whatever records he can, so.
But great weekend, great race. It's a shame that there's a lot of bad press in a way about the 2023 season, with everybody saying, "Oh, Max is winning every race, so people aren't watching." And true, Max is winning pretty much every race, and as a result, it is turning people off, I'm sure. But God, if we look behind Max, the next 19 cars on the grid, there are some fantastic battles out there, some great driving. We've seen Lando Norris really come to the fore as a real competitor to Max if he was in, if McLaren can just eke out a little bit more performance. We saw Ferrari win a race, with against, really put it to Red Bull there for a one-time deal. We've seen Alonso drive fantastically for the elder statesman of the sport. And, I find it interesting that people were praising Checo for having a better weekend. Well,
you won't hear that from me.
No, I don't think it was. I didn't think it was better. I really don't. Yeah, he finished fourth. Great,
Yeah, but
which
he
was
should
better
be second or third.
Been. It should have been third at least. He had Alonso with a couple of laps to go, and then made a mistake and let Alonso back through.
Well, that's Alonso doing Alonso things. Alonso has magical abilities, right?
He's a wily character. He's he's fantastic.
And Alonso has struggled as of late too. Aston Martin and Alonso, that's another thing. But he's able to get back to the podium with no problem.
Yeah, well, both Aston Martins look pretty good. Stroll actually looked pretty decent.
Yeah, Stroll had a good qualifying performance, and I think it was the sprint race. He qualified second, did he?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, but you look at the overall result, and you take Checo's performance during that race, and he finished fourth, which was good, but it was what did he end up? He was, let me have a look at the numbers here.
Yeah,
he was 34 seconds behind his teammate in a 71 lap race. That's almost half a second a lap. That's not good.
No,
and when you consider
you saw
the first,
he started like ninth in the race
on lap 5 or 6. So yeah, I mean, Perez qualified ninth, which there's. I mean, I'm of the opinion now that Perez will drive for Red Bull, or at least start the season with Red Bull next year. I think if anything was going to happen, it would have happened by now. Or there'd at least be a lot more murmurings of, discontent within the, within the Red Bull camp. And we haven't seen anything from that yet.
No. I mean,
and I think
everybody else is wanting to put Checo out of work, but you're not hearing it out of Red Bull. You know what I mean? It's all the
exactly.
It's all the pundits and those sort of people. But how do you think Perez's conversations go with his superiors at Red Bull? They pull him and say, Checo, we don't need you to be great. We don't need you to be Max, but we need you to suck less. Okay. Yeah. So that's really so I wouldn't praise Checo for having a great weekend, but he sucked less.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So
should have finished third, but he croaked under pressure in that regard.
But you know how magic Alonso is. On the podium celebration, he threw the champagne bottle down to his crew guys, right? And they missed it, and it hit the ground and didn't break. So Alonso was a wizard.
Because isn't that an Alonso thing? Even doing it back in Renault, if I recall.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's literally, amazing. Formula One is such a young man. So here's the guy that's the oldest guy on the grid. Obviously is probably the fourth or fifth best team out there, maybe. And he's had what, seven podiums this year?
Up there,
yeah, because he had several up there. So
looks like he's Alonso's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's his 8th.
There you go. Right.
How many does Perez have? Probably.
Perez has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but 2 wins.
Yeah.
But
so,
okay, and Max has all of them. Max has 16.
All by one.
Yeah.
All by one. Singapore, he finished 5th.
Yeah. So he's got 16 podiums, right?
Yeah, that's the only record. That's the only record Max will not break from Michael.
Being on the podium in every race.
Yep.
Well, not this year, but I mean, Max is still a young guy.
Yeah, it could be possible 24, but if we go back again, if McLaren weren't that egregious in the first third of the year, they would be up there for second, and the constructors were Mercedes.
They would be. Yep. So,
but because of that start,
and Mercedes really struggled this weekend. They had a real tough time.
Weekend in Formula One. Yeah. They were not. George Russell retired with the oil temperature, failure or high oil temps, and Lewis just couldn't get the tires turned on during the race.
Lewis got passed by Stroll.
Oh yeah,
you can't say that every day, right?
Yeah, and barring what happens to Checo, I think that weekend might have cost Hamilton second of the championship, barring issues for the next 2 weeks if Paris has some.
Yeah.
So
long way to go.
So anyway, the U.S. Grand Prix from Austin is back in the news as Haas has filed a protest over the penalties for track limits, and I guess the FIA has agreed to allow the protest and hear it. But I guess their main bone of contention is, you disqualified a couple guys and you gave a guy some penalties, but not everybody that needed one. So and I'm not sure what Haas is trying to gain. Maybe a few more points, a few more grid positions if they go through and try to. But I mean, honestly, the way those guys drive at Coda, the list of track limit violations would be like a stack of papers like this, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you think that's going to go anywhere, Richard, or it's going to be? Thanks.
I don't know. I mean, I think fundamentally the FIA needs to do something about this. We've seen it too often this year. We saw it in Austria. We saw it in, I think, Qatar. It got pretty bad. We saw it in Austin. fundamentally, there is something you can do about this, and it's called a gravel trap, or it's called a runoff, or it's called something to stop them from doing this.
Turtles, or different.
Yeah,
kind of
you watched NASCAR. Oh my God, you remember the old turn 4 at Sonoma or whatever it is, where they just miss the exit by like 5 car widths and just use as much of the runoff as they can. I mean, the FIA stewards would have a stroke if they saw that.
Yeah, NASCAR drives the same way at COTA. They're all over, and Watkins Glen. Yeah, they're all over there.
So no, I think it's not good, and they certainly need to do something about it. But hopefully, this will highlight it. And as I said, I really want to see them make a change to this and get rid of this silly. It's a self-inflicted wound in many ways, in my opinion, that they have the capability to stop this from happening, and they just miss at every opportunity to do it, I think. So let's see what they can come up with, and hopefully, as I say, we'll go into next year not talking about this.
How do they determine the track limit violation? Is it a sensor on the car?
Yeah, I think visual? So. Yeah.
I think
it could be using GPS. It could be using the transponder in the car. I'm not entirely certain.
Yeah, because I drive a Kia, and it'll beep if I get too close to the line, right? You just put that in the car, right? So that, and then they can track all that, right? So because the technology is there, we shouldn't be missing any of them, right? Yeah. You can theoretically put those in the car, have the data report to the stewards, and then just automatically 5 seconds off your time, 5 seconds. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's just messy, isn't it? It's just really messy, and I hope they do come up with a better way of doing this that isn't as silly, for want of a better word.
Yeah, I think Steiner's quote was, you can't apply the rule part of the time, not all the time, right?
So they need to do something. Yeah, they need to do something to get on top of this and fix it, because it's getting messy and it's not good. Not a good look for the sport.
Nope.
No, it's ridiculous. But side note, quick question, Richard. What do you feel like? Should they go back to spare cars? Like if they wreck and they stop the race within the 3-lap window, opening 3, getting back out there, what do you think? Because that used to be the thing. And if it was and if it was the older era, Leclerc, Albon, all those guys would have been back on the grid, and just go back to lap 1 or whatever. My question is why they got rid of it, and should they go back to that?
The reason they got rid of it was cost. Way too expensive. Way too expensive. And it was. I mean, these cars have got exponentially more expensive over the years.
Oh yeah, and the cap too. I got to think about
the budget cap. Yeah. You can't just have another car lying around. Does it diminish the spectacle from a spectator standpoint? For sure. Everybody'd love to see. Everybody remembers Schumacher when he hit, was it Christian Albers or somebody in the Midland back in China or Malaysia or somewhere.
Car to Cayenne.
And, running back to get in the car and jumping back in the car and going back out. Or Martin Brundle, running back after that wreck in Melbourne in '96 where the car snapped in two to get back in the spare car and go out there. Yeah, we all think how great it would be, but you can't have your cake and you can't have it both ways. These cars are incredibly expensive. The engines are expensive. The transmissions are expensive. You can't just have one lying around, and it's a shame that you don't see more cars in the race because of it. But you've got to draw the line somewhere from a budget cap's perspective.
Yeah, I figure it was the budget cap. When you brought it, I was like, yeah, that.
I mean, this has been around since before the budget cap, but it was a way of reducing the costs. And, over time, they've been, I think they always wanted to avoid where possible, the budget cap. They chipped away at it. They chipped away at cost saving, testing they removed or restricted heavily. Stuff like the T car and the spare cars they got rid of. They made the engines last longer. They made the transmissions last longer. They made the hybrid systems last longer. And eventually they're like, screw this. We're just going to have to put a bloody budget cap in here and be done with it. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe you say, hey, we've got a budget cap now. If you want to run a spare car, you do that. It's how you as a team then adjust your costs and expenditures. I've always thought that bringing a budget cap in should allow for the technical regulations to be opened up some more and say, okay, you got a budget cap, you find performance in a bigger window now. You've got to be inventive and you've got to be, you've got to think outside the box here because, we're giving you a bigger box to play in. I've always thought that would be a good way of doing it and, a good way of differentiating it a little bit better than we're seeing at the moment. But, who knows? I mean, I'm just, throwing it out there.
No, for sure. Even I think what was it Verstappen at Hungary not long ago? He still was able to bring that car and.
Oh, when he broke his toe link in the rain, yeah.
Yeah, he was able to bring it back up and like nothing. So also the cars are durable, but it's just when I heard
very, very durable these days. Yeah, I mean, you look at back in the day, and they hit a curb wrong, and a suspension component would fall off, and oh gosh almighty,
I mean, look at the amount of cars running at the finish at your average Grand Prix. Back in the day, you'd be lucky to have maybe 6 to 10 cars.
Yeah, back in the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah, the glaring outlier is Melbourne this year.
Yeah, your winner would win by 30 seconds, and you have 3 cars on the lead lap. Oh yeah, I mean, everybody goes back to racing in the 80s, the good old days. Well,
it was reliability, and if your car is good,
yeah.
And you look at Red
Bull. Back in the 70s, if you won 5 races and only had 4 DNFs, right?
Yeah.
You'd win a championship. I mean, now this day and age, 4 DNFs will kill you because the other guys aren't getting DNFs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you look at it, and you look at I don't think Red Bull have had a mechanical retirement yet this year. I don't think.
No, I think Perez has the one retirement all year.
Well, Perez has 2, Suzuka and Mexico, and they were both damaged.
Yeah, the one time Perez had a chance of leading for the first time forever, he blew it.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's I mean, you look at. I don't think anybody's had. Well, Sargent's had 4 retirements this year. And that's the.
I think Bottas might have more.
Ocon's had 6. Bottas has had 3.
Oh, okay. It feels like Bottas has more.
Had 4. Yeah, but I mean, very few retirements these days. But yeah, no, that's Brazil wrapped up. A great race, always a great track to go to, and then we move on. The weekend before Thanksgiving through to Vegas, and that's starting to cause a little bit of consternation amongst some of the locals there. I think I don't know if you've seen any of the news coming out.
I've been hearing it a lot for a while. They've ruined the pageantry of Vegas. Aesthetically.
Yeah, they've drained all the fountains to put, the grandstands in, and bridges have appeared, and sidewalks have been shut down, and I don't know. The more I'm hearing about this race, the less I'm, put it bluntly, less I'm liking it. I think they've tried to. What's the best way to put this? They're trying to fix a problem that didn't exist with this Vegas race. We didn't need a Vegas race. We've got Austin, which is Austin's a great race. It's a proper race. It has 400,000 people coming over the weekend or whatever it may be. Yeah. It's on a classic track, arguably one of the best tracks out there. Certainly of the modern Tilke Dome style tracks.
Yeah, it's a purpose-built track where you're not.
Yeah, out of the Tilke Dome track, probably the best one since Malaysia's no longer in the calendar.
Yeah, Malaysia's probably up in that category. Miami. Again, Miami was always felt a little bit forced to me. We've got Monaco, okay.
Yeah,
which is
and they have real water.
To a certain extent. Yeah, we've got these places that have been, certainly Monaco, enshrined in Formula 1 history as the glitz and glamour event of the sport. And Miami sort of tried to do it a little bit, and it sort of worked. And then Vegas has gone, well, hold my beer. We're going to, we're going to see what we can do.
I just want to hear what the drivers think of all this. We already heard Verstappen. It's like they're more about the show than the race. And even Miami, they were not keen of driver intros because it takes time away from them.
But it's the other thing. Like it's a Saturday night race. Formula 1, and I'm going to sound like an old fart, Frank.
All right, we're listening. I've been watching
but
Netflix and so forth, but we can hear you.
Formula One races do not happen on a Saturday night. Formula One races are Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening when you have a night race. What's Europe? That race is on at 6 o'clock in the morning. Who the hell is going to get it now? The championship's over. Not many people are going to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning to watch it. It's midnight on the East Coast. Nobody's going to watch it. I may, but nobody sensible is going to watch it. West Coast, yeah, maybe, but I can't see it. Again, it's going to be 9, 10 o'clock at night at the earliest. Probably 10 o'clock in California. But it just doesn't make sense. And as I say, I think they're trying to fix a problem that doesn't exist, and it's a real shame. I'm really disappointed.
They're trying to they destroyed the city of Las Vegas for this thing.
Well, that's not a bad thing, is it?
I mean, from an aesthetics, for me, I've never been to Vegas from an aesthetic point of view. I know the locals are angry because it's killing business of those that thrive on tour attractors.
Yeah, that's the thing that kills a lot of street races.
Yeah,
the people that are local there, the local businesses don't like having everything torn up for months in preparation, and then the teardown time. That's what's killed. Baltimore and Houston and has moved Detroit off of Belle Isle after. Well, they were there quite a long time, but they had to continually try to shorten the setup and breakdown time to appease the locals, or the NIMBYs we like to call them. But if you look at the classic races in Formula One, I'm going to look at Australia, Monaco to a certain extent, Canada, Austria, Monza, Silverstone, Spa, even Zandvoort in recent years with Max. Monza in there, and Japan to a certain extent, and Brazil, and again, Mexico with Checo in there. They are full of core diehard fans of the sport who go there because they love the sport, they love their heroes, they love to see their guys, and there is always the corporate side of it, and. There's a phrase in the UK for people that only go to sporting events and corporate tickets called the prawn sandwich brigade, and it's the people that don't really care about the sporting event. They just go there to be there and have the fancy food and the free drinks and rub shoulders with people, and that's what Vegas is going to be. Vegas isn't about the Formula One fans at all. Miami isn't about the Formula One fans. Vegas is pure and simple about getting the celebrities there and getting the likes on Twitter or whatever it's called now, and getting the Instagram reels out there, and getting Machine Gun Kelly or whatever that dick was called, out there talking to Martin Brundle and acting like a complete arsehole. We do not need people like that on the Formula One grid. Go and interview a mechanic. Go and interview a team principal. That's what we care about. If you have a celebrity who is genuinely interested in the sport and understands, Gordon Ramsay, prime example, the chef, loves Formula One, goes to a handful of races every year, knows the sport inside out. And whenever Martin Brundle interviews him, has a really, really good conversation. But not these actors, or celebrities. This guy left halfway through the race, apparently, or whatever. No, we don't need that. We're not. Formula One has a big enough market without this. We don't need it. Don't fix a problem that doesn't exist, please. And it worries me that we're going that way.
Yeah, so the rich get richer, the influencers get expletive. I'll say off air. Yeah, that's all what this race is about. Like Verstappen said, it's not about the race.
No.
And it's basically a poor man's Singapore as far as the street course layout, in my opinion.
The track doesn't look terrible.
Yeah. It looks like Singapore, but will it resemble Singapore as far as the racing action? Time will tell.
I don't know. The other thing that I heard brought up this week is they're kind of looking at, and we're pushing the clock here, like record colder temperatures, for that area. They're kind of worried about tire wear and whatnot. So I don't know how cold it gets in Vegas after the sun goes down.
People say about the Desert Berry cold. For me, it's not cold. It's like 60 or 70, or it's not cold to me compared to where I live.
Well, if 60 or 70, yeah, that doesn't sound bad. But I don't know what. Of course, then again, people write a Formula One article about just about anything to gotta get you to. Because the headline was the coldest Grand Prix ever. I'm like, probably not.
No, coldest Grand Prix ever in Vegas.
Yeah, there's only been like 3 of them before.
It's like the Mexican restaurant, which calls itself the best Mexican restaurant in town. Yeah, it was the only bloody Mexican restaurant in town, so of course it's going to be the best.
What town is that? Every town I go through got 3 Mexican restaurants.
Sebring. There's a Mexican restaurant in. There's a Mexican restaurant in Sebring that calls itself the best Mexican restaurant on the lake in Sebring. Scale. The old Caesar's Palace thing is so small compared to the new.
Caesar's Palace race, it was just I've seen tracks made for radio control cars that resemble that.
Yeah,
it's just kind of it's all twisted up inside itself there and then parking lot race. So, but I don't know. I thought the old Caesar Palace Grand Prix were always kind of fun. Always have somebody. Like Michele Alboreto with a Tyrrell winning.
Didn't John Lacey have a really good run there in a Tyrrell one year?
Phoenix.
That was Phoenix. Sorry,
Phoenix, yeah.
Yeah, I did get to see the circuit, the former circuit, as I was buying World Series merch that a hat cost $50. I was like shaking my head. I was like, $50 for a hat? Really?
Mm-hmm. Hey, man, they're
selling. I think Formula One hats are like $5 less. I think
I saw him. A buddy of mine went down to the Grand Prix in Miami. He showed me some pictures of the Formula One hats on the display there. $200 to $300. I'm like, Jesus, for a ball cap.
I hope that's a Miami thing. I want to see a price for like Suzuka or Monza. I want to see how much those are worth at those tracks. I guarantee it's going to be less. Hopefully.
Yeah, it's going to be less. Yeah, I bet the Vegas ones will be $1,000. So
this exclusive Valtteri Bottas hat, $750.
Yeah. All right, guys, we are out of time. So again, thanks to the sponsors, the Brawn documentary coming up on Hulu, Ferrari film coming out in theaters around Christmas time. Again, Ryan Blaney has been doing the Alzheimer's ad for us. Congratulations to Ryan Blaney. Bringing home that championship with Louise Torres Multimedia. I want to thank our producer, Keith Hayes, Sinister One Productions. I want to thank Facebook Live, YouTube, and Spotify. But certainly want to thank you folks that tuned in, watched, and listened tonight. And until next week, good night.
Thanks for watching Drafting the Circuits. Make sure to follow Drafting the Circuits on Facebook, Spotify, Twitter, and YouTube. Drafting the Circuits is a Code Sinister One production.